Folks, here's that video that you all have been waiting for me to come out with. This is it's touching on the mark of the beast, government corruption, of course, our freedoms and liberties. But I'm going to tell you a story of what happened and is still happening to me. All right, Thomas Jefferson said that when you fear our government, there's tyranny. When the government fears you, there's liberty. I would have to say this government certainly needs to get more fear of the people because they're constantly taking away our liberties. They're getting more and more tyrannical. And I want to tell you what they've done to me. I don't know if you've seen my video about the chemtrails and me having a heavy metal poisoning, but it left me 100% disabled for many years. And then I began, took a lot trying and trying, kept trying to get better. And of course, I wanted to get back to work. I mean, I was out of work for so long and put my parents, let's just put it this way, I'm very much in debt with them. But I got to where, from the time I lived in Florida many years ago, I moved down in right after Hurricane Andrew. And my goal had been to get a Florida contractor's license. I had been a contractor up north. I did a lot in Virginia, Maryland. I did a lot of government work. Of course, with them, you don't even need to be licensed. They just go to the lowest bidder, which the average person should have the right to do the same. Our government should not make laws that we have to live up to, but that they're exempt from. It's like the saying, maybe you've seen it on YouTube, badges don't give rights. Well, neither does being the government give you the right to make laws that we have to uphold, but you don't. And there's many of those. Well, I'm not going to get into all that right now because I have a feeling this is going to be a fairly long video anyway, and I try to keep them short. So anyway, I finally went as I still live in a lot of pain and keeps me from doing a lot of things. But I had to do something. And I had to turn down a lot of good job offers because I knew that because of my condition from the arsenic poisoning, I wouldn't be able to do them. I told people, hey man, I'd love to have that job, good money and everything, but I got to be honest with you. If I went out and did that one day, I'd probably have to take the next 3 or 4 days off. And I was just hoping to get better, but I finally ended up scrounging up enough money to get what they used to call a home improvement license here, which allowed you to do certain things, tile, painting, drywall, inside trim, minor plumbing as long as it didn't go behind the walls. You used to be able to hang up ceiling fans. Of course, they've changed that now. You have to be a licensed electrician. Heck, I put up 30 fans, maybe more, probably a lot more in my life. So I'm well qualified to do it. But this mafia government that we have, they want you to pay them to be in business. Just like the mafia used to do in Chicago. Well, might still be some of that going on. But sure, you could have a store or business as long as you paid them for it. Because they wanted to protect you. But who were they protecting you from? From themselves. Otherwise, no telling what might happen to you or yours. Okay, well, our government has become the same way. They talk about they want to give you take away your liberties, but give you more security. Yeah. It was, I believe it was Thomas Jefferson again who said, or maybe it was Ben Franklin, a very wise man, that if you give up liberty for security, then you deserve neither. And remember, they'd already seen what had happened with, I mean, they were there when we had our Revolutionary War. And shoot, it looks like it's coming close to that again right now. And what started that war? What was the shot heard around the world? Do you recall? That was at Lexington. And the reason that happened is because their troops were coming to take away the Americans' ammunition. Isn't our government kind of working on that today? They can't take away your guns, because that's dangerous. That's really dangerous. Then they can cut off the ammunition supply or make it really tough for you to get that. Meanwhile, they bought all these billions of rounds of ammunition. And why is it that so much of that ammunition was either AK-47 ammunition, which our military doesn't use, or hollow point rounds, which neither our police or military use? They're very expensive, and I believe they might even be illegal in warfare. But just keep that in mind. Now, I want to get back to my story here about what happened to me. So I went out and got my license, figured at least I could go out and do some things, that weren't beyond my physical limits. And I could make some money. And I made very little money, especially when you're starting out a business, you're new in an area, you already got some disabilities, which you really don't want people to know about. But it makes it tough to get started, especially if you don't have a budget. And like I said, don't know a lot of people. So I wasn't making much money, not enough to live off of, but I figured my name would get out there, things would pick up. And of course, oftentimes when you're starting out, you want to do things cheap so that you can get customers, because once you've built, it's like a home. The larger the foundation is, the larger the house can be. So if you've done work for a whole lot of people, they're eventually, they're going to call you back. They're going to tell their friends about you. And before you know it, you don't have to worry about the business coming. Well, I struggled for a few years. I finally got to where the 30, in fact, I had so little money I couldn't afford to renew my license at one point, and immediately Ramona Zavansky from the county called me and said, you got to come renew your license right now. You're going to have to take the signs off your van. You can't give out a business card. You can't do any work until you get this straight. So I ended up, I think and it's not much money, but I had to borrow it from my dad. Got going again. Anyway, by the third year, things were getting a little bit better. I was still living, I would say, below the poverty level, but at least some money was coming in. I could see that things had nowhere to go but up. I was putting other people to work, which, by the way, I didn't realize it then, but that's illegal for me to do here unless I'm incorporated, which I was, and then I put them on my corporate board, and then I can have 2 officers that don't have to be covered by workman's comp. Otherwise, even if it's just for one person, and believe me, I checked around trying to get it, it's $4,500 up front, $4,500 to $5,000 up front, then $60 per week for their paperwork. And then for what I was doing, they would take out 28% of your income for taxes and SSI and all. Shoot. Who can afford that? I mean, an average poor man, especially someone who's just come out of 100% disability, trying to get better, they can't afford that. So I struggled, but it was getting better. Uh, I had a few limitations, like I say, because of my health, but at least I was able to bring in some money. Well, the next thing you know, and I was even for the first time ever, I was able to hire a bookkeeper. Was just about to get an accountant to pay my taxes, and I was set up. This guy by the name of Jerry Mauler, also often referred to by many people as Lying Jerry, which I wish I would have known at the time, who lied to me, and he's basically a mole, somebody from the building department. This guy, he can go on jobs and be doing things that are totally illegal for him to be doing according to the law, and he won't get in trouble for it. But if he sees someone else on the job that maybe doesn't have the proper license for what they're doing, then he would turn them in to his buddy Jay Mayer from the building department. And of course Jay would come out there because then they get to bust those people and they get to fine them. And here's the problem with them. There was so many other things, like even Obama said now, they can lock you up without trial and all of this stuff. Well, what these people do is they are your accuser. They are your judge and your jury. And they are the ones that profit from the outcome. How are you going to get a fair trial like that? It makes it difficult, especially if they're out there for your money. They're not going to give you a fair trial. They got the power of the law behind them. And these laws are very corrupt, some of them. So here's what happened to me. My bookkeeper calls me and tells me about some clients of his that needed some work done. He gave me a phone number and name, and I got in touch with the people. And the guy was saying, yeah, man, if we don't put this wall up here, then they're going to shut my business down. He said, man, I can't afford it. I believe the man was running illegally at the time. It's hard sometimes to meet all the requirements that they want you to have up front. Sometimes you got to make a little money just to give them to meet the requirements. So anyway, I told him, man, I could do all that work, but I'm not licensed to do it. And the guy, the scoundrel, as it turned out, he said, well, we're going to get the permits. And I said, I'm not sure if they'll let you get them with a commercial building, but maybe you can. They said, oh, no, we're going to get them. Well, they couldn't get them. So they were pleading with me, please, Rob, we got to do something. So I asked a couple of contractors if they wanted to get in on a job, and I could do all the work. I needed to make some money. I needed some work. But I didn't want to do it illegal. I went to a guy, his name is company BFI. Seems like a much nicer gentleman now, but at the time, I don't know, maybe he was stressed about something. It just seemed that he had a little bit of an attitude, and he was supposed to get with this architect about some things, and he didn't. He was procrastinating. So meanwhile, I run into Jerry Mauler, a.k.a. Lying Jerry. And I'm actually up talking to some friends and telling them the situation. And letting, seeing if they knew a contractor that might be willing to go in there. And a friend of mine, he's done some minor work for me. He pointed out a guy. He said, oh, he's a contractor. All right, get introduced. We sit and talk, and he's telling me, oh, yeah, I'm a contractor. Gives me his business card, showing he's a contractor. I've seen his, I guess it was Facebook page online, saying he'd been a contractor for like 10 or 12 years, that his dad had been a contractor in that area. It was a bunch of bull. But he had me believing. I had no reason not to trust the guy, especially since someone I knew told me that he was a contractor. So he comes to the job with me. He's going to get the permits. He asked for money up front, which I gave him, the money up front. Uh, he was telling me, yeah, I'll have them. I should have the permits tomorrow. I'll go ahead and get the materials and everything. So I did. I went and got all the materials. Got some help. Um, and he didn't show up with the permits. He said he'd been busy. He would get them, but don't worry. You can go ahead and start the job. I know everybody at the building department, and I've been doing this a long time. It's okay. So I trusted the man. And I said, well, you're going to write a contract with him. He said, well, I'm busy, Ralph. You go ahead and write it with them, but I'll take care of all the, the legal stuff, the paperwork stuff and all. I didn't feel comfortable with that, but, he kept telling me, yeah, he'd been doing it so long. He knew everybody. I didn't know the system here. Well, I've seen a lot of corruption in the system in Virginia, where 7 building officials were caught. Mm-hmm. Yep, good. So, I'm doing the job, and day after day, he's making excuses. He said, well, I'll have it tomorrow for sure. Well, when I call him the next day, after a few calls, I get through, and he tells me, oh, well, his wife had a flat tire in Daytona. So he spent all day helping her. I'll get it tomorrow. You just continue. And, I didn't like that. The next day, it was another excuse about a boat had been going down or something. He had to save the boat and just different things. Well, I didn't like it. I became skeptical. I went to the police department and I talked to Jonesy, Sergeant Larry Jones. Told him what was up. And I said, look, man, I have a feeling this guy might be lying, and I don't want to get in trouble for him lying to me. And he understood, and another deputy listened, and he was wondering what to do about it. And I said, well, let me see what he does. He said for sure it would be there first thing in the morning. But let's see. So meanwhile, I don't want to incriminate myself, but let's just say I went out and bought a recording device. And which the policeman, including the other policeman who was in the room, they had no problem with that, especially when I told them that I did start some of these recordings. And I told them, look, I should have a right to, because I have to be able to defend myself somehow. Otherwise, there's going to be my word against Lying Jerry's. And yes, Jonesy did offer to help me. He actually sent me to another policeman in Bunnell. I believe he was a detective in the little building out there. And he just passed the buck. He called Jonesy, his brother from another mother, and he told me to go back and see him, which I did. But like I say, at that time I was getting the recordings, and I thought everything would be okay, and I thought the guy was going to come through. He sounded like it. So, and I'm not used to people lying to me. But I want to tell you, I feel just like God. He says there's 6 things, 7 that are an abomination to him. And one of those is a lying tongue. Now, I know none of us likes being lied to by anybody, and especially our government, or those that are in positions of trust. So anyway, he gets to where I told him, hey, look, Jerry, I'm going to be done with this tomorrow. He said, yeah, I'll have it. Don't worry. Like I said, I know everybody has my buddy with the black car been down there. Now, this is the building inspector, Jay Mayer, who was his buddy. I said, nah, nobody's been by. He said, yeah, well, he's already been by there a couple of times. Everything's okay. He knows what's going on. But still, I told him, hey, look, I got to have this before I get paid, because that was the terms. Final payment upon passing inspection, because I guarantee all of my work. Everybody should. So anyway, he don't come up with it. But I did get a call that afternoon. Oh, and by the way, the business owner had offered to write me my check. And I said, nah, go ahead and hold on to it, till we go ahead and get it inspected. Should be fine. But you just go ahead and hold it. And meanwhile, this guy, Jerry, was asking me for more money. And even said, but this time I want it in cash. Well, like I say, the next thing you know, I get a call, and it's somebody from the building department wants to talk to me. And who is it? But none other than Jay Mayer. And he's telling me about all these illegal things I've done and how I'm going to get fined this amount for that. I'm going to get fined this amount for that. I mean, he was telling me what my sentence was going to be, and that I was going to have to go to school and all these things. And I said, hey, wait a minute, man, I haven't even done anything wrong. I said, I tried to explain to him. He already knew what had happened. But of course, I didn't know this at that time. So I go talk to one of our councilmen. He gave me some suggestions. I went down and some girl printed out, because I'm not very good on computers and didn't even have one, I don't think, at the time. I still don't. I'm using someone else's now. But she gave me a printout of his Facebook page, but had all this information. It was a nice color copy, saying he'd been a licensed contractor since such and such year and all of these things. So I took that down to the building department to give to Jay Mayer. Actually, no, the councilman suggested I go see this other woman. And when she saw what I had, she's, oh, okay, I'll take that and give it to him. I said, no, I need to keep a copy. Can you make a copy? She said, oh, can I have the original? I didn't give much thought, but I thought, no, the original was in color. I'd have rather had that. So then I speak to councilman again. Just, I'm just trying to cover my bases. He met with me and he told me to go see Mark Carman, the chief of police, who was a friend of his. I said, oh yeah, I know him. Like, I'd seen him and talked to him several times. He was actually dating one of my neighbors. Even though what I didn't know is that he was married at the time. And actually since then his wife has died kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say mysteriously, but knowing what I know, it sounded kind of mysteriously to me. And his wife had also been involved in shooting a firearm off twice, stealing a police car. She was all drunk and high on pills. And I think her punishment was like a 30-day rehab type of thing or something, a slap on the wrist. Whereas this other gentleman who I knew, who had fired his shotgun into the ground in his yard once, he got 19 months in jail. And while he was there, supposedly the police came into his house and took his weapon collection, which was incredible. I mean, he had stuff from the 1800s, maybe older, all kinds of pistols, some rifles, and a heck of a knife collection too. Anyway, neighbors had told him that they saw the police come in there and walk out with all that stuff while he was in jail. All right, but like I said, she just got a slap on the wrist. So anyway, I go to this guy, and I show him, and he takes the paper, and he says, oh, well, I'm having lunch with Jay today. I explained everything to him. Although I also told him that I was using a recording device. He says, oh, you can't do that. That's totally illegal. You go to jail for that and all this. So he says, but I'm having lunch with Jay today. He says, I'll go talk to him and work this out. I didn't know that Mark Carman was a liar. I didn't know at the time that he was tied in with him. So anyway, in fact, he's such a liar. He lied to me on a couple of cases, because here's what he told me later. I'd gone to Jonesy again and talked to him to see if something was being done. And Mark Carman, the chief of police, when I asked him if he was checking it out, he says, oh yeah, I got one of my best men working on it. I said, who's that? He said, Jonesy, Sergeant Jones. I said, oh, okay, good, because I did trust him. He seemed to be an honorable guy. In fact, he was just ran for sheriff here, and I was putting a good word out for him. But so he's telling me Jonesy's investigating this thing. Next thing you know, I got a trial date, and I'm being accused of all this stuff, and I'm wanting to, get some results from some investigation, either from the city or from the building department or from the police department, thinking that they were being honest and straight up with me. And like I said, Mark Carmen tells me that he's got Jonesy handling it. So a few days later, I get in touch with Jonesy, or a little bit later, and asked him about it. He said, no, he never asked me to look into it. I go, what? He told me they did. He never asked me. I thought, So sure enough, here's what happens. I go to their court. Now, they told me I could bring witnesses. I brought 3 witnesses, which just before trial, the same woman, Ramona Zavasky, comes up, and she says, and who are these people? I told her, well, there were some witnesses. Oh, no, you can't have any witnesses here. And myself and the others were shocked. I mean, normally in court, don't you get to bring in witnesses? We're supposed to be able to, constitutionally. So anyway, I get in there. You got way off from my peripheral vision, on my left and on my right, you got people that work for the building department. And then way up above, across the big bench, just like in the Congress, you got, I don't know, maybe 7 people all up there behind microphones, all elevated up above everything. And then about 3 minutes before they call me up, Ramona brings me this paper. I don't know, it's probably 9 pages, but all this stuff, including Latin, and we got this law, you violated this law, which pertains to, this number in that book, which pertains to this number in that book, and on, and this is 3 minutes before I get on the stand. No kind of discovery or anything, which is not something I was aware of then, but nothing. Just take you up there, and these are your charges. So anyway, they asked me a couple questions. Whenever I try to explain something or to bring up this guy Jerry Mauner, aka Lion Jerry's name, they would immediately cut me off, especially Ramona, because she knew who he is. She knows that they're tied in with him. She knows that they bring him in money. So every time I try to mention his name, boom, I was cut off. And if it wasn't her cutting me off, it was one of the others. Or when they would ask me questions, before I could even answer a question, especially if it was coming out to where they didn't want to hear the answer, I'd be cut off by one of these people who were up there on this, huge podium. And most of the time, I didn't even know who was talking to me. You would hear a voice over the loudspeaker, and I'd have to look around to see whose lips were moving, and oftentimes couldn't even see whose lips were moving because the statement was already been made. And before I could answer, like I said, I'd be cut off again and again. And so I'm looking at this paperwork as I'm up on the podium in front of me, and one of the things that it said is that you had a right to an appeal through the courts. What's the Latin name there? Nolo pro se or something like that. Well, I don't speak Latin. I don't read Latin. So I didn't know what it meant. All this that I saw is that I could appeal it to the courts. So I could see I was just being railroaded. There was no sense going any farther there. I figured I'd go to a real court. Oh, well, sure enough, they fined me, I think, about $28,500. I couldn't get my pay from the man that owed me the money, even though I'd done the job. And at one point, Jay Mayer said he wanted me to give the man back $500. Shoot, I was already in the hole because at the time I was injured, and when I helped to bring the materials in that day, it left me debilitated for many days to where I couldn't do any heavy lifting or big reaching or anything. I was limited in what I do, but I could be there to supervise and did whatever I could. So that's what happened. $28,500 in fines, which are really illegal and against their own guidelines. They say that, well, first off, what it says in the state documents about them is that it is not the intention of this legislature to fine people, but rather to have them come into compliance. Well, they wouldn't let me come into compliance. They just wanted to fine me. And according to the documents I have, believe me, I got plenty of paperwork. Even if you pay the fines and do all that's required, it doesn't guarantee you that they'll give you a license back. This is like, it's just a taste of what the mark of the beast is going to be like. They're not going to let anybody buy or sell unless they have that mark. It's all people, rich, poor, bond, free. They're going to want everybody to have it. And I'm not sure what it is. I have my ideas. But, yeah, these people want to make money off of you. They don't want to work. They want to come take your hard-earned money. And the scriptures are full of how they do it and what they do. Much of it in Psalms. I'm not sure, chapter 60. It's throughout the scriptures. Matthew 23 about the scribes and Pharisees and what they do. And, very hypocritical. In fact, at that court, if you could call it that, meeting, Ramona opened with the Pledge of Allegiance. With liberty and justice for all, it said. Oh, no. They just say it with their mouths. But they weren't there to give me any liberty or to give me any justice. So, I've long felt that these building departments weren't right. I remember years ago, now some places you don't have them. I remember when initially, many years ago when I got licensed, it was just a matter of paying some money. They just want to get your money. That's it. Of course, they like to tell the people that, oh yeah, we're doing this to protect you. We're going to take away these people's liberties and make them pay for what should be their rights, such as a right to work or a right to make a deal with somebody. If somebody wants to hire me and I agree, then they should be able to hire me. But, they can't unless you go with their terms. They're not a part of this transaction, nor should they be. In fact, it's unconstitutional for them to get involved. We do have courts already, so that if somebody does something to screw someone over, you can go to the courts. But these people say that they're doing it to protect, customers so that they don't get ripped off by anybody. Now, heck, even if someone does rip you off, you think they're going to give you the money that they recuperate? Certain parts of that money goes to the state, and certain parts of it stays within the county. Okay, and the other thing, the course that they wanted me to take was $500. And it was a course on the laws dealing with construction, not on do you know what you're doing, do you have any integrity, not those things, just the laws. It was $500, and they gave me the paperwork for it, and guess who teaches it? Ramona Zavansky, the same lady who wouldn't let me have witnesses, the same lady that's lied to me a bunch of times. In fact, when I went to see her, I told her she was a liar. And she said, oh, well, I've never lied to you. And here's several other employees behind the counter there, and they're looking at me like, what are you doing calling our boss a liar? And I said, Ramona, I really don't want to get into it right now. I was there for another reason, which I'm going to get into in just a minute. And she's, but Raul, I've been totally honest with you. I said, Ramona, please don't make me go there, but you've been lying to me. So she's made another comment. So then I explained 2 of the times that she lied to me. And I think some of the other employees behind the desk were like, why? Of course, they stayed out of it. They want to keep their jobs. But that shut her up. But here's the reason that I was there. On this the right to an appeal, nolo contendere, I believe was the Latin that was after. Something like that. But in order to appeal, you had to go to them and get a recorded copy of the audio from the meeting. Complete copy. So I had to pay them a few bucks to get it. Actually, I went there on a Thursday, and I'd already filled out the court papers so that I could, go to court about this. And it's on a Thursday, and I told her that I wanted a copy of the tape from the proceedings. And she said, well, why do you want that? I said, well, I'm thinking about appealing this. And she said, oh, you don't want to do that. And I said, why not? She said, well, you don't want to do that. It never works out well for anybody. I doubt if anybody's ever bothered doing it. So I said, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it or not, but I'd like to get a copy of the disc just in case. And meanwhile, she got a $500 check for the course, which had to be written up by my dad, and he subsequently put a stop payment on it when he saw how corrupt they were being. So anyway, she tells me, I didn't tell her, she already knew, she tells me, well, you only have until tomorrow to appeal this. I said, yeah, and that's why I'm here. She said, well, I'm not going to be able to give you the tape until Monday. No, you'll have to come back on Tuesday. Let me tell you something, folks. That is criminal. She has a fiduciary responsibility to me, and that is criminal. That is called obstruction of justice. And I did end up filing charges with her at the sheriff's department. And, oh boy, I never wanted to do anything about it. I had to call them so many times, and they would say, oh, well, so-and-so's handling that. Well, where's so-and-so? Oh, well, he's out for a week. He's on leave or something. It was always an excuse. And then when I call back, I'd try to reach someone several times, and then they'd say, oh, well, this person's in charge of it now. Oh, well, how can I get in touch with him? Oh, well, right now, he's sick, and he won't be in for a few days. And he just kept putting me off. And it was very frustrating. And I kind of saw the handwriting on the wall. And when finally, after much persistence, 2 detectives showed up and met me at my dad's house. Oh, and I want to mention to you, too, when I finally did get that CD on Monday, it took her an hour and 45 minutes to download it for me. And then they have it on some type of a system where I couldn't even listen to it on my computer. I tried all kind of things. I finally went to a computer guy at the library, and he showed me how to dig it up. And I was able to listen to it. And as I listened, I thought, boy, I think they've left some things out of here. So, yeah, I believe she not only, we'll put it this way, that not only obstructed justice by not giving me this stuff, but also tampered with the evidence. So finally, these detectives, apparently they went down and they got a copy and met me at my dad's. And we couldn't get it to play on the computer. They couldn't do it. I couldn't. My dad couldn't. So one says to the other, see, I told you it's a waste of time to even come over here. And I'm thinking, man, believe me, I was angry. I was frustrated. Of course, I still got my copy. They still got theirs, but are they going to help me? I don't know. I'm doing this video to expose him. God says that we're to expose the unfruitful works of darkness. And hopefully, maybe, somebody will see this and they will help me. Because, it's hard enough fighting City Hall. But this isn't just the city involved. This is the state also. So let me tell you what they did after that. Next you know, these suckers tried to lay a snare for me. Oh yeah, the Bible lets you know they do that too. They call me up, and apparently it's this woman who's bought a beauty shop and it needs a bunch of work that I come out there and look at. So sure enough, I went out and looked at it, and all I was trying to do was bid on tile, drywall, and painting. And I was explaining to her what I would do and everything. And then she's like, well, oh, and at this time, well, let me keep going. And then she starts asking me, or telling me, well, we need an air conditioning system too. I said, well, I don't do that, but I can get you somebody that does. And then she's telling me, we need plumbing also. And I said, well, she'd explain to me how she planned to have everything set up. Now, I didn't know and didn't care that there was all these policemen in another room and people from the building department and that hidden cameras, audio. And I told her, well, if it was me, then what I would do, you're going to have to go through this wall, you're going to have to do this and that. And I was explaining to her, asking her questions, where's your electric coming from? Because they wanted me to do electrical work, plumbing work. I told them I don't do those things, but I can get you the people. And then I noticed too that their big window to the place had a big crack in it. And I said, you probably have to fix that too. I'll get you somebody. So she was wanting to get a price from me. And meanwhile, I called another contractor. I'm trying to think of that scoundrel's name right now. That chicken shit. Pardon the French. That coward's name. But he said, oh, yeah, we can do it. And I said, yeah, you can bid on all the other stuff. And if you want, because I just want to get the drywall and the painting and the flooring. And I said, I can run the whole job for you and do all that, And he could pay me for that. And he was all for it. Well, I told him, well, let me get some things figured out on my end. I'll get back with you and we'll meet out there. Well, sure enough, they called me back again. A couple. Wow, we need that estimate. We need the estimate. And I was trying to get with the other guy to get him out too. And we finally set it up. I never did give him an estimate. Never did say I was going to do it. What I did do, I did send him an air conditioning guy, a plumbing guy, a window guy. And I'm not sure. I don't think at the time I had an electrician to send him. But I did send these other people, and they went down and checked on it, and some of them, they right away, like the plumber, he knew right away it was some kind of a sting. He knew that something wasn't right. I didn't, I'm just there trying to do my job. It's like my business cards and my t-shirts said, because I'm not allowed to wear them anymore or to give them out, pleasing you pleases me. Anyway, I call this builder. He tells me he's working down in Ormond or Daytona area. Where was it at? And I told him where to meet me in Bunnell, which would be real close to where the job was, and we'd go over there together. Because I wanted to be so we could have some time to talk, work out arrangements. Well, as I'm sitting there, in comes a bunch of cops, like about 5 cops. They come up, want to know if I was so-and-so. I said, yeah. He said, well, we'd like to talk to you. And I said, well, fine, go ahead. Nah, could you step outside? And I just ordered a beer. I'd had lunch, ordered a beer. I hadn't even drank but maybe a third of it. And I said, well, I just assume talk right here. And there was other people there. I said, well, we really don't want to embarrass you. I said, oh, don't worry. I don't embarrass you. You can say whatever you want here. Hey, I had nothing to hide. And they were still, well, it'd be better if you stepped outside. So out of my former respect for the law, and I got to say, I still got to try to respect them, but they make it more and more difficult all the time. And I wish they would do something to restore my respect for that. So anyway, I step outside, and I'm asking them, have I done anything wrong? And they basically have nothing to say. I'm saying, what do you guys want? They have nothing to say. And I kept saying, have I committed a crime? Nobody gave me that. Am I under arrest? I should have walked away. I should have walked away then. But all of a sudden, up walks this guy, Jay Mayer, from the county. And he says, "You remember me?" Oh, and I looked up at him and I said, "Yeah, I remember you." I wanted to say, "Yeah, I remember you, you lying, censored." But I just said, "Yeah," and then he gives a nod to the police. And the next thing you know, they tell me to put my hands, behind my head. They're searching me. One of them says, they're locking me up. They're taking me somewhere to a anyway. And one of them says, "And I'll take his van." I said, "Man, you're not taking my van anywhere." And, it's loaded with tools and everything. And I don't trust them. And there's no reason nor right for them to take my parked van and take it anywhere. So I left my keys with the owner of the establishment. Sure enough, they took me in, did all the handcuffing, did all this. They had all these people there from the state and from the city and county, and every one of them's coming in and give me a different fine for a different thing. And I couldn't believe it. And one of the guys, I thought, well, this older man, I thought he seemed straight up. Oh, no, he wasn't straight up either. And then another guy, he's got all this paperwork filled out, and I told him, "No, that's all BS, man. I never did anything wrong. I didn't give him any prices on anything. Didn't say I was going to do any of that work." Needless to say, he said, "Well, we can go over it if you want to." I go, "Yes, I do want to go over it." So he puts his hand over the piece of paper, covers the paper, and he said, "Well, sign it right here." It was on the side, and then we can talk about it. So I signed it. They weren't going to talk about it. No, that was, I don't know what I was even signing to, really, but I trusted them. Mistake. I don't trust our government. Give me plenty of reason not to. I wish they'd give me reasons to trust them, but I don't. So anyway, this guy who covered the paper, he even met with me several times after that, tracking me down, made me sign papers. I think they had me sign like 3 different times a paper that said stop work. In other words, I couldn't work. Oh, and when I left the fingerprinting and the accusation and all these charges they were throwing at me, when I left, first they took me outside and paraded me around. Had everybody look at me, took pictures of me from the front, from the side, from the back. And then I asked them, it was a cold day. And I left, I had just a t-shirt on. It was pretty cool. And I've been sweating there now. It was cold outside. And I asked, since they'd taken me there, could they give me a ride back to my van? And one of the policemen was going to be nice enough to do it. And I see Ramona tell him. So they made me walk. So I wasn't happy about that either. So as I get out and start leaving, here comes 3 guys. One guy looked like, he's big as all Texas. He says, "Hey," they get in front of me, "I want you to take a look at all of us." He says, "Because if you get caught working on a job now, it's $1,000 fine. It's a 3rd-degree felony, and you will be carried off to jail, and $1,000 for every day that you're working." And I'm like, "Man, get out of my face." And he said, No. I want you to look at all our faces." And I didn't want to look at their faces. I don't want to look at their faces at all. And he says, "Well, I just want you to know, if you see any of our faces coming up on you, you can best believe you're going to jail." I said, "Man, get out of my way." And I just walked on through and walked back to where I was. And I just couldn't believe what was going on. In fact, it ended up putting me in the hospital because my heart was so troubled. The Lord says, "Let not your heart be troubled." And he comforts me a lot, but I tell you what, that day, especially since I still have problems from the arsenic, one of which is, although it doesn't affect me too bad most of the time, one of those things is my heart. Yeah, and I ended up spending a day in the hospital and got a bill of $1,450 that is yet to be paid, because since then, I've been able to work. And I went to City Hall about this and spoke at City Hall. And I was trying to deal with these people. I'd call them, try to talk. Nah, they don't want to talk. They just want your money. And it's like, what are you going to do about it? And even the public pretender, defender, no, pretender that they gave me. When I told her, well, when they kept having me in and out of court, in and out of court. And by the way, I was acquitted of all of those things that happened there on that sting operation. But meanwhile, the sheriff put out a thing in a bunch of newspapers, on television repeatedly, with my name and all these other names, and said that, and these are people that you don't want in your house or around your children. Man, was I ever angry about that. My sister said for days she hadn't seen me that angry. Oh, I could have gone around punching holes through brick walls. I was angry. But this man that defamed me, I had calls from Orlando and from Daytona from people I knew who'd seen it in the paper. And I had to catch a lot of flack from people who didn't know me in the area. The people who knew me knew better, although I bet you some of them had doubts. I'm not sure. I could tell you so much more. The people who knew me, though, they knew better. Hey, I've been a scoutmaster. I got almost two whole handfuls of grandchildren, and they all love me. I love children. I would never do anything wrong to them or anybody if I can help it, unless, the Bible says to live in peace in so much as is possible. Now, if it comes to a time where it's not possible, sometimes you got to turn around and you got to fight, or you got to do something to defend yourself. So anyway, that's my situation. And now, but I did go to City Hall. I got up and spoke. Now, you only get 3 minutes to speak. And I said some things, and I said, number one, Mr. Mayor, this man right here, and Mark Harmon, the chief of police, happened to be just to my right and behind me. I said, this man right here has lied to me twice about this incident, Your Honor, Mr. Mayor. And I said, and secondly, this man here, now I didn't know he was going to be there, but I'd had a conversation with him the Thursday before. Name's Nestor Abreu from the building department. Another scoundrel. I repeated the conversation that I'd had with him. And then I told him how I'd gone to the county administrator to try to have something done, Craig Coffey. And when I spoke to Craig, he's a very tall man. He leaned up against a door frame, and he said something that wasn't good. Right now, I don't recall it exactly. And I said, hey, wait a minute, man. I'm a citizen of this county and of this country, and I expect to be treated fairly. He says, oh, he hesitated for a minute. Then he said, oh, yeah, you're right. Hold on a minute. And he walked through one office and through another office out of my sight. Came back a couple minutes later and did like Pilate. He just washed his hands clean of it. So when I said all these things, the mayor said, wow, these are some pretty serious allegations. I said, yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, but they're all true. So he said, well, you know what? I want to speak to you privately after the meeting tonight. Nothing good. Maybe something's going to get done. So now normally the chief of police, because I've been to several council meetings and I've spoken, about different things. I want, our area to be good. But the chief of police, who normally stays until everybody's gone, boy, his computer was closed up, his jacket was on, and boom, he was one of the first people out the door. He wasn't staying to protect these councilmen because I guess he was afraid he might catch some flack. The man Nestor Abreu from the building department came over and apologized twice, and twice shook my hand. And I said, well, Mr. Abreu, if you're serious about this, then you will investigate this guy, Jay Mayer. And he put it off, and that's when he apologized and shook my hand again. I said, well, Nestor, look, if somebody was working for me and was a crook, I would want to get rid of him because I wouldn't want my reputation ruined. I said, so you need to do something about investigating this guy. And he tells me, well, we don't like to go after our own. Ooh, ooh. So I did get up to speak to the mayor, and it was pretty brief. And he told me to get in touch with him the next day and gave me his number. Or he wanted to see me the next day. Well, you can't just get in to see him. You have to call him. Because I tried to get in. So I called him. And we were on the phone for several minutes. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And then he says, oh, something came up. I'll call you back in a minute. Give me just a minute. And I waited and waited and waited around. He never did call me back. He's a scoundrel too. So what I just want to say is, this is one of the little beginnings of the mark to the beast. This government needs a lot less regulatory agencies, because every one of these regulatory agencies is taking away your rights and your money and giving them to other people. Yeah. And here's the thing. That board that I told you I was before, just about every one of those people is in the construction business in one way or another. And believe me, I wouldn't put it past them. In fact, I guarantee it, that if you're maybe bringing in too much competition, they will find some kind of way to get you out of there. And getting back to what the legislature said about it, it's not our intent, to fine people, but rather have them come into whatever the term was I used earlier. But the fines that they do have are based on certain requirements. Like one that they gave me was supposed to be based on what the average person in that industry would have made, or what their payroll would have been. That's what one of the fines was based on, for not having workman's comp, I think it was, which is a big scam. Anyway, they're saying that, now this is a handyman, okay, working out of his little condo, don't have no advertising anywhere. Although on that sting operation, they said the people that they busted were people who advertise in local periodicals and stuff. No, I didn't. Mine was all word of mouth, And anyway, these people are bad, In Psalms 94, I'm going to look that up real quick because I don't want to paraphrase it. I want to quote it to you. Let me see. It's and what fellowship have you with them that make law that they might create mischief? In other words, even though I'd done nothing wrong, no customer of mine ever complained. They were all happy with me. The ones that complained were when I told them I could no longer work till I got this straight, which I can't get straight. I haven't been able to. They were the ones upset. They were like, well, who are we going to get now? And, for the most part, I couldn't help them much. If I did know somebody that I thought was good and trustworthy, then I would recommend them. But it says that they make mischief by law. Oh, and that they gather themselves together. Yeah, they did. The city, the county, the state, the police. They all gather themselves together and they come against the righteous that they might shed innocent blood. That's what God says there in, I believe it's Psalms 94, 20 and 21. Somewhere right around there. And sure enough, they did. And they're constantly making new laws to come after the righteous. If you don't know, or you haven't seen Obama's executive orders, then you're just a little ignorant about those things. I'm hoping that somebody can tell me, what can I do about this? Please, somebody tell me. Post something on my site. Or if you've had similar problems, post something. So far, what I'm doing here, which hopefully is going to be helpful, is that I am exposing these unfruitful works of darkness. And I tell you, based on experience in the past, and how I've been able to even get laws changed, is because these people hate exposure. They don't want people to know about their evil deeds. They say, actually, it's there in Psalm 94 also, I think. It speaks plenty about them. You should read the whole chapter. And about how they say, oh, we can get away with it because God doesn't see it. Let me tell you, God is not blind, okay? Yeah, God sees it all. All right, I just want to say, warnings, warning, warning, warning. Meanwhile, I want to say something that unfortunately I didn't say in my last video. Some things you really need to do. Pray and read your Bible and repent. And please, if you want to see this country turned around, you really need to take 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14 and memorize it and put it into your heart, because it's the only way we're going to turn this country around. Trump's not going to be able to do it without our help, and more specifically, without God's help. You know, this country has been taking God out of everything, so all this wickedness is coming in. You know, if you brush the house clean, but don't keep, don't keep that God in there, the other stuff's going to get in there. And that's what's been happening. Okay. Because he says that if my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will heal their land. He goes on to say more, but he's shown me that not only can this land be healed, it can become more bountiful than it's ever been. But we got to bring God back. We can't allow these politicians, back in Matthew 23, if you look, where he's talking about those scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, how they even try to keep people from entering the kingdom of heaven. But meanwhile, now I've had to live in somewhat of a fear. In fact, I'm going to tell you what the vice mayor's wife told me after that city council meeting. She called me the next day. She said, Bill showed me the video of the meeting last night. And I can't tell you who said this, but I'll tell you what they said. They said that now they know what you drive. And you know what I told Sandy? I said, Sandy, you know what? I know what they drive too. But it's ridiculous, these people. You know, they want to use force, intimidation, threats, extortion to get your money. All right. I'm not sure what to do about it. Boy, I could tell you things I would like to do about it, but it's not what God leads my heart to do. You know, I'm trying to work within the system. I want to change the system. I have been able to get some changes made, and I'm just a nobody. You know, but I got God on my side, so that makes me somebody. And I'm a child of His, so that makes me somebody. All right. Like I said, don't forget to repent, to pray, and to read your Bible. That's how you seek His face. All right. I hope this has been educational, eye-opening. And like I said, please, if you have some advice for me, I can do something to help me. Oh, and there's even more about another trial I had to go to. And it's just ridiculous what they do. You don't have a chance against these people. All right. Thanks for your time. God bless you all, you children of God. And those of you who aren't children of God, may you learn about him and get adopted through his word. In the name of Jesus, amen.